Hello everyone, this is Steven from the Even Steven channel, and today's video is a follow-up on my particular example of Walther PPKs. I did a previous video on this gun, and I think everything I said in that video still holds up pretty well. I rewatched it, did make one factual mistake. I said that the Walther PPKs has an 8-round magazine where it's really 7 rounds, so sorry. That was the one thing I said that I thought was wrong. Otherwise, I think everything I said is still correct. A little safety check here. It's not loaded. Neither of these magazines are loaded. I said that the Walther PPKs is an iconic gun. I said it was a gorgeous gun. But I said a few negative things, and I think they're still perfectly valid. I said the gun is not particularly fun to shoot. The recoil is a little sharp. Not unbearable, not terrible, but I've shot 380s that were a little easier than this. I said ergonomically it takes a few hits. You can't get your hand very high up on the grip. You want your hand to be lower. The magazine release is in a kind of a bad spot. And I think all these criticisms are still valid. Now some people might retort, well, it's an older design. Okay. But Walther still makes this gun. They produce it today. So I think if I have some criticisms for a currently being produced gun, still true. However, this particular example was not made by Walther. And I said it was not very reliable. I was saying that this gun had certain failures to feed where the cartridges would nose up and get caught on the top of the slide. It wouldn't feed at least once a magazine, sometimes more. So what do? So this gun wasn't made by Walther. It was distributed by Interarms, made by a company called Ranger, under license of Walther. So who would I even send this gun to be fixed? Interarms? Would Walther even take a look at it? I don't know. Still don't know. So when I made my first video, people had some comments. They talked about things like maybe you need a lighter recoil spring. I heard people say something about the loaded chamber indicator of the gun actually interferes with the gun itself. On YouTube and other places I asked around, I got a bunch of different opinions. And what I decided to do was I decided to do the cheapest fix first. What I decided to do was I decided to replace the magazine springs. These are actually new magazine springs. And replace the recoil spring in the gun. And I didn't show that on camera because it was kind of a pain, particularly the magazine springs. So these are the original magazine springs of the gun. Not particularly, noteworthy. However, the ones that I put in the gun, in the magazines rather, were like an inch longer. And it had this little note here. So I got these from Wolf Springs. They do a lot of springs for things like, well, I think I've gotten Makarov springs from these guys. So I've got Makarov and Walther PPK springs. And this says, pistol magazine spring plus 5% extra power. Extra power. And what that tells me is that this might be a known... I didn't ask anyone. I didn't ask Wolf why they did that. But this might be a known issue with the Walther PPKs, especially for older magazines. Maybe the tension in the magazine isn't quite what it used to be. And the slide is moving faster than the magazine can properly feed the gun with. Now the recoil spring, which is over here, recoil spring that this is the old one. I didn't do anything such thing with the recoil spring. The recoil spring was 20 pounds recoil spring. This is the old one. And that was the standard factory weight. And note that on this gun, there is a more narrow end and a more open end. The more narrow end goes this way, the more open end goes that way. So this is not reversible. So I replaced the magazine springs, I replaced the recoil spring of the gun, and when you know it, worked better. Not 100%. I had one failure to feed, but it was a different kind of malfunction. I had one failure to feed where the cartridge was ever so slightly out of battery, ever so slightly. Just gave it a little, and it worked. But I was not getting the other malfunction where the cartridges were nosing up and getting caught. So that was gone. So all the gun needed was some new springs, which might be understandable. I said that I believe this gun is 28 years old. So new springs, the gun's all good to go. However, I think criticisms I gave the gun before are still justified. Ergonomically, it's not the best. It's not the funnest to shoot. But it's still an iconic and gorgeous looking gun. So I thought I'd give a little update of how I was doing with the gun. It works now. It works. Now, anything else to add? No, I think that's it. This is, I guess, a relatively shorter video. Walther PPKS, it's working now. It's working much better. And I diagnosed and fixed the problem. So I guess this is it. This is Steven from the Even Steven channel. Thank you for watching a little update video that I had. I'll catch you next time. Do all that liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, all that standard YouTube stuff. Just do it. Just do everything. And I'll catch you next time. Thank you, and goodbye.